What is going on, guys? Carter here with Edge Mindset. Thank you so much for joining me in this video today. Couldn't do it without you. Wouldn't want to anyways. We're talking all about the Chaves 229 Redencion. More specifically, we're going to be comparing the new quote-unquote budget knife, the blue label, and compare it to the full titanium original version. So, off the bat, both of these are made by Reate in China. Neither one of these are made in the United States, in case there's any questions about that. This one is completely stock, except for these Mokutai thumb studs on here. But other than that, both of these are completely stock. Now, the retail price on this guy is a little under $400, which is pretty high for an overseas produced knife. The retail price on this one is $180, which once again is a little high for what you're getting here. But what I really want to point out is what are the differences between these two and what can you expect if you pick up either one of these, and more specifically, the blue label here. Let's start with some high level specifications here. You're looking at just over 3.5 inches. I think it's 3.6 inches overall length on the blade there. And then the overall length of the whole knife is about 8.25. Now, for all intents and purposes, these knives are the same size. But if you really want to be specific about it, the original titanium version is a little bit longer, both in blade and handle. So it is slightly bigger. It's a couple 1/8 inches bigger on the original titanium version. I don't know why they shrunk it by that small amount on this blue label version. Maybe it was an efficiency thing, or maybe Ramon just kind of liked this size and didn't want to change this one. I have no idea, but this one is a little bit shorter than what you're going to get on the full titanium version. Now let's take a look at the thickness here. You can see that the titanium version is quite a bit thicker than the liner lock budget version. I'm trying to line, it's hard with those chamfers there. You can see there it is thinner. When you look at weights, I think you can imagine what we're going to be kind of dealing with here. The titanium full version is going to be more heavy, 6.6 ounces, and the liner lock budget version, 5.9 ounces. Now it's not that huge of a difference, at least in my mind, considering it's much thinner in blade stock and handle. The main reason is this is all steel construction. So all steel liners. There are no lightning holes to speak of on here. Pocket clip is steel. There's no titanium on this knife, whereas this has big titanium slabs on the handles. Once again, no lightning in there. Titanium backspacer, titanium pocket clip. So the steel on this kind of bridges the gap in weight, but you are looking at less weight on this guy here. As far as steel goes, we've got M390 on the titanium version and then LMAX on the liner lock version. In my mind, it's up to you to decide which one of those steels you like more. M390 is kind of the go-to lately, but a lot of people really like LMAX and they find it very satisfactory in the cutting department. Before I forget, before we move completely out of specs, let's do blade thickness. So 0.126 on the blue label. And then on the titanium version, 0.158, 0.157, somewhere around there. So obviously thinner blade stock on here, which is going to lead to a thinner edge and more sliceability. And more specifically, the other big change on these particular versions is this is not compound ground. It is completely flat ground all the way through, whereas the original, the titanium version, has a compound grind. So it's hollow ground right here, flat ground on the tip. Little slicier back here, little thicker and stronger here, but on the blue label, it's all pretty uniform all the way through. Now, this is not, you can't compare this to like an Oz Roosevelt in terms of sliceability, but it is quite a bit thinner behind this edge, and it is going to perform a little more consistently as you're cutting through material, because you're not having to decide which edge that you're going to use and potentially transition into the other one, as well as having a thinner, more nimble tip to kind of deal with there. So in terms of EDC, like general EDC, this is a better general EDC knife in my opinion. This one features micarta scales on the front here. It does give you a little bit more grip. The titanium, as much as I love it, it is a little bit slick. It gets wet, it gets oily, it gets sweaty. it does get a little bit slippery. You do have amazing jipping up at the top on both of these, but you're going to get a better purchase on this knife, especially considering it's got these micarta textured scales on the front and back. As I mentioned before, steel pocket clip here, you can kind of tell in the color difference. It's kind of up to you which one you prefer. Steel's fine. It's just not as premium of a material. It's a little bit heavier, and it kind of has that steel shiny look to it, but both of these are serviceable and the same. By the way, both of these knives have the ability to switch out the clip for kind of the more generic non-skull clip. So that applies to both of these. This one came with the skull one installed. This one came with the non-skull installed. Now, as far as locks go, that's the biggest change here. This is a frame lock with a steel insert and an over travel built into that insert, whereas this one uses the more classic liner lock. No need for an insert because it's all steel. No need for over travel because you have that scale. In my mind, both of these are very, very serviceable and usable. The lock strength is, in my mind, just about equal. You can get down into some nitty gritty and say, with the frame lock, you're able to kind of put some hand pressure on that lock to help prevent it from unlocking. I mean, I guess if you're ever in a situation where that's the case, but for most people, cutting the knife, you just need the lock to keep it open so it doesn't close on you and be strong enough that minor force on the back or on the front isn't going to have it close on you. And I think this achieves that no problems at all. Now, both of these came with Chaves bearings installed. I probably should have said this at the beginning, I've swapped these out for thick washers from Skiff because that's what I prefer. I just like that kind of smooth manual action. I don't really like the super drop shutty, even though these are very, very smooth. And with a little shake, you can get these to drop shut as well. So that's it. I mean, they're very, very similar. Both of these are based off of his custom model, Redencion. You're kind of getting what you would expect on the budget line. It's about half the cost for the budget. Hard to say for sure because it's been a while since they've done a run of these. I would imagine the next run of the manual full-size titaniums will probably see a price hike. That's an assumption. If that happens, then this will literally be about half the price. If it doesn't happen, this is a little bit less than half the price. Both of these, and I've said this before in my main review on Chaves knives aren't really the most affordable in terms of what you're getting. But in my opinion, they're very, very cool. Ramon is a stand-up guy. I really like the aesthetics and the look of his knives. They're kind of like blank canvases, which is why there's so much customization that happens on these with these big blank titanium scales on here. But I kind of like just the clean, simple look. I really like the choil. Something about the Chaves knives really speak to me. And I think this budget line is going to be very, very popular, especially once these start hitting the secondary market and they become even more affordable for people to pick up. They're going to have a bunch of different scales you can swap out on here. So very, very cool stuff. So long story short, this one is the classic, big, beefy, chunky boy, kind of expensive, but very, very cool. Closest thing to his custom knives that you're going to get in a production line. This one is more affordable. It's a little bit thinner, a little bit better for EDC, especially if you get the street version. The street version is the mini version of these. Both of these come in street, which is smaller. I think 3.25 inch blade. Everything is shrunk down. So if you're really looking for the ultimate Chaves EDC knife, I would think the street drop point blue label Redencion is the way to go. But let me know what you guys think. Which one of these would you pick? Does this blue label line kind of re-pique your interest in Chaves knives, or is it just more of the same and you don't really care? All right, guys, talk to you later. I'm out.